What's up, guys? It's AJ here from Drop Frame Studios. So today we're going to create this marble run loop. I got the inspiration from the child's toy that I used to have. So let's jump into Cinema 4D and see what we create. To first start with the marble run, what I like to do is actually switch to redshift, and I like to change my frame rate. 25 frames. We're gonna hit Control D. Go down here as well, 25. We're gonna change the scene to 150 frames. And I like to do that just because 25 is closer to 24 frames per second, which is more cinematic. It has more motion blur. So, and it's real easy for the math. So we're gonna just throw a cube into the scene. And the Z, we're gonna put 850. We're gonna put 0 because we need to do that on the sides, excuse me. All right, so 850 in the Z, 550 in the X, and let's do 75 in the Y. Let's add a small fillet of 1.5 because when the light hits it, I want it to actually catch the light because there are no true sharp surfaces in the real world. So that just gives it a little bit more realism. All right, let's call this floor. Now let's worry about our path. So let's jump into the top view. And we're going to hit the spline tool. And we're going to enable snap, work plane snap. And I am just going to quickly create a cool little funky path. And whatever you do, you can make it as complicated as you want. Let's just end one unit out. Switch to the brush tool. Add that as well, one unit out. And that should be good. Let's switch back to the rectangle selection tool. Grab all the points that are at the curve. Chamfer. And I'm gonna go 75. All right, I like that. And I added a cube. This is just a reference cube, and we're gonna group all this, Alt G, call this scene. And we're now gonna go add an instance of this. All right. We're gonna go down to the coordinates and we're gonna, in the Z, push it to 850. And that is because that is the dimensions we built our floor on. And now we can Control C, Control V, and push that in the negative as well. Now we have 3 copies, well, 2 copies of our scene. And whatever we put in our scene, whatever animation, whatever like that, that's now copied into these instances. So that's real cool. And go ahead and just delete that cube. And on our render instances scenes, we can go ahead and hide these. So we have our spline that we just created. I'm gonna go ahead and create a circle. And I want this circle to be around 45. And now we're gonna go grab a sweep, if I could find it. Shift C, sweep. And I just added it over here. Just quicker for me. And this is our spline. Let's add our sweep to the scene and drag our spline into that sweep. And now we have our road. Let me just call that road. And now we have 2 items, our sweep and floor. I'm gonna grab a volume builder. And add it in just like that. Floor at the bottom. We're gonna change our voxel size to, for right now, 3. So in our volume builder, let's make sure that the sweep is on top, and we're going to subtract that. And it's pretty much acting like a bool, but it's procedural. We can change and add in other things later on, which is really cool, into this volume builder. And that's what I mean by in terms of procedural. So I'm just going to add, I'm going to push the sweep up 25 centimeters in the Y, just so that the road isn't pushing through the cube and I don't have to affect the cube and do anything like that. We have the volume builder, so that's nice. So let's just go ahead and we're gonna throw that volume builder into a volume mesher. So now we have our actual road. So that is really nice, really clean. We can clean up these edges a little later, but we're gonna throw a ball or a sphere. I'll just call this ball into the scene. And we're going to go ahead and, because I know the road is 45, I'm going to make the ball smaller. So let's go either 35, 40. Just move that over, make this 35. And I'll change the type to hexahedron. And that, we go to our lines. You can see that the polygons are even at the top and bottom of the sphere. And those really help out with simulations and different things like that, but we really won't be using a simulation. We'll be cheating this with Greyscalegorilla's plugin called Signal, but just good to know. So we'll make this 45. It doesn't have to be as dense. And for me, I'll go ahead and hit Command C, or just C, just C, make that editable. And we'll switch to the polygon view, rectangle tool, and right here in your front view, I'll just try to select half of that. And I'll go to select, store selection. And I now can apply 2 textures to the sphere. So that's cool. Let's put that in the scene and close this. This will be just our floor, road, whatever you want to call it. And on the ball, we can switch back to our normal view, brush selection tool, and right click, animation tags, align the spline. And just go into that sweep, Command C, Command V, and we're gonna call this ball. So because I actually lengthened the road spline by 1 unit, we need to go into the front view and everything's still the same. So I'm gonna click on that spline, and just bring it back in. I only extended that 1 unit because I wanted the road to cut out of the box. So switch to point selection mode, and yeah, just bring that back in. Do the same at the bottom. And with the snap, it's really simple. It should just snap right back into place. If I can grab it. All right, it's real nice. And now let's put our spline into the scene. Alt G, group that and call that ball. Just stay organized. And we're going to just go ahead and look at this right quick. So if we grab the position on our spline, on this tag, let's go ahead and just drop that ball, spline that we just adjusted back into that. Now let's go in here and we see that it is moving. It's looking pretty good. Almost there. So for me, I know I wanted to animate this way, so I'm going to go to the beginning of the scene, click on position at 100%, then go to the end, animate it to 0, and then keyframe that again. And let's just play through it. And it's not really linear like I need it to be, so we're going to go into Window, Dope Sheet, and make that linear. Let's see what that looks like again. Really cool, but it's still not really linear. And that has to do with our splines. So if we go into the ball spline and make that uniform, you can see the points now are on here. So that'll also definitely help ensure that it's linear, but I'm gonna go ahead and just increase the points to something even. Even if we just double that, let's do 16, that should work. And on our floor, do the same uniform. And I want to increase this to like 50. And that's going to also help with the geometry in these curves. All right. So now we can see it's definitely looking smoother. And let's go ahead and get a glimpse of what it looks like. Now you see it's kind of chugging along. So what we need to do is go to our instances and go to render instance. And what that's going to do, instead of creating 1, 2, 3 separate different calculations, is going to just, you look at scene 1, everything that's in the scene, and that's going to just do one calculation and it's just going to replicate that. So it's saving on, RAM and all that. So that's now running a lot better. All right. So as you can see, we're almost there in regards to the loop. There's a little stutter at the end, but I'll show you how to correct that. All right. So if we go back to our ball, I kind of want this to rotate. That's why I made that editable and added that selection tag. So shameless plug, I have Greyscalegorilla and I love pretty much everything about it, all the plugins. So we're gonna use their Signal plugin today. And you can pretty much see what I'm doing. You can do the same thing in the coordinates, but I'm just gonna let the plugin do a lot of the, heavy lifting. So I'll add in that on the rotation. I know the P right here, it's kind of what I want to be affected. So I'll go here and we can just start at 360 on the time. I want to make this linear. Keep that ease and get linear. And I want to keep this the full time of the animation. And we can see we get a little bit of rolling. It's really cool and it still loops properly. All right. And even if you wanted to have it roll twice, you can do the animation like we just saw. So that's pretty cool. But again, I like to keep it at 150 and then adjust the max here. So, because you just saw that it stopped at 75 seconds. But what I really should have did is loop that. But I mean, it's essentially the same thing. So I'll just do 360 times 5. Want to spin 5 times. All right, cool. And we're going to Again, just add in another signal, and I'm going to adjust the bank on this one. Same techniques. Spline, linear, 150. And the max needs to be 360 times, it's probably 1400. 1440, all right, cool. So all right. So I like that, and just maybe put this in a negative. So it looks like it's rolling in the proper direction. And I can put another tag on here and adjust what is that? The R on here, but I think we get the point. So I like this. Everything seems to be working. It's looping properly. What I'm going to add now is a floor or a plane. And let's just turn our instances off so we're ensure we're working on the main scene. Drop that in. Push that down. And go back into the polygon mode or the right mode. I believe this is the object selection mode, so whatever. You know what I mean. All right, cool. We'll make this, we'll turn our instances on, so just so we can see and make this line up. There's a little overlap, it's not that bad, but it also depends on what texture, so be wary of that overlapping. You might want to turn the snap off. All right, so that's fine. A little overlap on mine isn't that bad because I like simple textures. You don't really want to have overlapping textures, but we can go ahead and increase that in the X. All right, now let's worry about getting our camera from A to B. So we'll add in a null, and its coordinates should be at 0, 0, 0. So go to the beginning of the scene, and again on the Z, because that's what we've been operating at. Keyframe the Z is 0. Go to the end, 850, you guessed it, and keyframe it. Now let's go ahead and jump into our dope sheet and make that linear. Now we can go ahead and call that control. And you can see our null moving throughout the scene. So now we can go ahead and add our camera. Let's just go ahead and fire up the render viewer. Looks terrible. Cool. Let's add in our camera to the controller and click through it. And let's also, for lighting purposes, let's just go ahead and add in our dome light. So again, shameless plug. You can add in any HDRI that you want right here in the texture, but I am going to add in my Link Plus. And I love this just so I can view all of my HDRIs seamlessly and quickly, and it's sickening because I truly use more for that plugin right there. All right, so these are some of my favorite too. These are my favorite go-tos. Let's see what we get. All right, let's click through our camera. And I really love what they did with the new update of Redshift, because they allow you even more controls than they already did, and you can really just start to copy and mimic real life cinematography and photography. So for me, my favorite lens is the 70-200. So let's make a long lens. Oh, that's not long. All right. All right. So it looks great. I love long lenses for this reason. It just compresses the scene. So now if we hit play, and we'll worry about that later. Everything looks good. Let's just stop that. Yep. So it looks good, and let's just go ahead and correct that at the beginning. All we need is to Command C, Command C, Command C, Command V, create another instance, and put that instance, just multiply that. So for me it was 1700, so put another instance in the negative. And only reason why I had to do this is because that was the camera angle that I chose. So if we fire that up again, everything's looking good. So we have it looping. We have one pop, but I'll also show you how to correct that at the very end. And yeah, let's go ahead and worry about lighting. So cool thing about also having your camera in a null is you can move it around and it's not affecting the position of your control. So that's nice. So we have our starting point, we have a little bit of lighting, and let's go ahead and add in some materials. So I'm going to add the plane, the floor are going to have the same material. And in regards to colors, I use this website, Coolers, I don't know how you say it. But it's really nice. You get great color palettes and stuff like this. So I really love to stay consistent and work off a color palette. And for this, let's go a little brighter. All right. And again, moving the camera isn't that bad because it's not going to go anywhere. So let's go ahead and adjust that, drop that in there. Quickly, I'm going to just not really worry about the materials too much. I'm going to keep it pretty simple and a little sheen. And even with textures, you got to be a little wary of where they stop and end just to ensure that the loop looks seamless. All right. Command C, Command V, put this onto the ball. And just go grab another color. All right, looking good. And because we have that selection tag on, now see at the bottom we can add something else. So I'm just gonna go jump into grayscale, go to materials and add a middle. Switch that. Middle, top. All right. That looks really nice. Yep. All right, sweet. So we're going to add in one more light. And the thing about lights and gobos and things like that is you want to be, again, worrying about where they stop and end. And if you have something like an animated gobo that's abstract, it might work better than using something like a window. And I can show you an example of why that wouldn't work. But we'll go ahead and put a target tag on that. Put that on the ball, just so we can get that lit quickly. And for me, one tip is for lights, you kind of want them pushed off in the distance just a little bit. All right. So play with the shadows just a little bit, just to ensure there's enough light in the scene. All right, I like that. It looks really nice, clear and clean. And with the color, I'm actually gonna create another one, change the color. I don't like how that metal is hitting. What I could just do in the middle, I should have extruded it, but in the sake of time, Command C, Command V, boom. Let's just switch that out with the metal. All right, and that's on par with our color palette. All right, cool. So if we jump back to our render viewer, the last thing you need to do, a couple of things, but the main thing you need to always do is check the beginning and end scene. And here you can see, if you click through, you can see the lighting is not the same, and that will automatically give away the effect. So the way to solve this is to add our lights into the scene, into our controller. So our lights now move with the controller. And if you actually test that by jumping back and forth, and you can render out the frames, you can see that the lighting is following the actual null now. So that's good. So we have everything ready to go in regards to that. The last thing we need to worry about is this little pop. So to just solve that, you need the last frame, the beginning and last frame to match. So we animated our camera null, which is this controller, to 1 to 150 frames. So to get rid of that last little pop, which is essentially a duplicate frame, you just need to go back one frame. So we're gonna render out 0 to 149. And to just show you that, you go through the animation, you'll seamless now. All right, cool. So we are good. We have lighting, materials, quick color palette. So yeah, I'll render this out, and when I'm done, I'll show you what the results are. All right. So we are done. I hope this looks good. If you have any questions, please drop them down in the comments below. I'll be sure to reach out. If you would like, you can also reach out to me at hello@dropframe.studio. And you can also view some of my work at www.dropframe.studio. You can reach out there if you would like to speak to me. I'll have my Instagram handle and Twitter handles and different things like that in the comment section below. So yeah, stay tuned till next time, and I'll see you guys later.